I would like to thank one of my subscribers, Michael, for this article. I have to use a different article because the one that you sent for the Wall Street Journal required a subscription before I could see it. So I'm still going to give you a shout out for sending the article. All right, so this came out in Becker's Hospital Review, July 9th, 2019. U.S. life expectancy faces longest decline since World War I, Spanish flu pandemic. So the CDC has observed the third consecutive year of decline in life expectancy, marking the longest decline since 1915 through 1918, a time period that included both World War I and the Spanish flu pandemic, according to a report from the CNBC. Data from the CDC's National Center for Health Statistics indicate a person born in 2017 is expected to live to 78.6 years compared to 70 78.7 years for a person born in 2016. While this decline may seem minor, the accounts for over just a month, the downward trend is notable, according to the report. The CDC points to several potential factors, including an increase in drug overdoses, greater prevalence of chronic liver disease, and cirrhosis, and growing suicide rates, according to the report. Now, ladies and gentlemen, one thing I can honestly say, when you look at the data and at the rate, because one thing I noticed, and I seen several articles on this, because of the drug addiction, heart problems in young people is now skyrocketing, and it's from all of the heavy drug use. And it's the reason why you're seeing more and more stories about young people dying of heart failure or heart attack, and it has a lot to do with drug addiction. All right, the average life expectancy in the US has been on the decline for 3 consecutive years. So the last 3 years represent the longest consecutive decline in the American lifespan at birth since the period between 1915 and 1918. And that was, what I told you before, World War One and the Spanish flu. Before the recent decline, life expectancy had been steadily rising in the US, which is to be expected of an advanced nation, particularly one that spends more money per citizen on healthcare than any other country. Yeah, that's because other countries give their people free healthcare. The US don't. That's why they're spending more than any other country. The US isn't alone. A study projected the UK lifespan will shorten about 5 months. So it is still on the rise in France, Germany, Sweden, and the Netherlands, though the countries have also seen a sharp slowdown. While there's no single cause for the decline in the US, you can best believe drugs is the biggest factor on why it has declined in the US. All right, so a report by the CDC highlights 3 factors contributing to the decline. A rise in drug overdoses, exactly. That has probably the biggest impact on why the life expectancy has been dropping for 3 consecutive years. In 2017, more than 70,000 deaths. Take that with a grain of salt, y'all. According that occurred because of drug overdoses. Opioids were involved in more than 47,000 of those. The age adjusted death rate for drug overdose in the US rose 72% within a decade. The CDC analyzed data from emergency room visits. It found that opioid overdoses went up a whopping 30% in the US from July 2016 to September 2017. Opioids continued to be prescribed at triple the amount they were in 1999, but many are hoping to change that. The federal government has spent more than $2.4 billion in state grants since 2017 in a bid to curb the epidemic. The CDC data shows the number of opioid prescriptions, while still high, is now declining. Increase in liver disease. Over a 10-year period, the death rate for chronic liver disease and cirrhosis among men aged 25 to 34 increased nearly 8% per year, while women in the same age group increased more than 11%. The cause of liver disease can vary from genetics to alcohol consumption and obesity, a rise in suicide rates. The national suicide rate has increased by 33% since 1999. In 2017 alone, the rate went up 3.7%. The global suicide rate, meanwhile, has declined almost 30% since 2000, with the rates in Russia, Japan, South Korea, and India falling significantly over the last decade. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know what? This goes back to those deaths of despair. And that is still happening heavily in the United States. Drugs have been one big thing that I believe it has spiraled so far out of control that this American government and people involved in healthcare, they can't conquer this thing. It is just too far out of control. And, no matter what they say, the drugs have a huge factor in the reason why the life expectancy is dropping. You have a lot of men and women in this country that are doing both the legal and illegal drugs. And the consequences is they are ending up at the morgue. And another thing that's not spoken about in this article is fentanyl. Fentanyl has been the biggest killer of the American people on drugs, and it's put in literally everything. I have seen articles of it put in cocaine and marijuana, and it's just literally mixed in every drug, and it's because fentanyl is so cheap. China has been selling it to people all over the dark web and Mexico. All of the fentanyl that comes across that border from Mexico also originates out of China. Now, I believe because of the trade war that's going on, China is going to do very little to nothing to stop that fentanyl from coming over here. Number one, they don't like the US, and they really don't like Trump at all. And, you know, China has made many promises over especially the last 2 years to do something about all of the fentanyl that's coming out of there. They have yet to do a thing. All that's coming out of China is a bunch of lip service. But each and every day, that fentanyl is reaching American citizens all over this country through the mail with ease. So it's not even hard or complicated to get the fentanyl and have it shipped. And not to mention, some of you may remember I did an article on how China diverts a lot of those packages by mailing them to other countries first, and then the package gets relabeled and then mailed to America. So it kind of throws off the trail that it's actually coming from China. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell. And I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.